So this morning, I've chosen to talk about individuated, but not separated. Our primitive ancestors looked around at the environment they were in, and they heard the thunder and lightning, or heard the thunder and saw the lightning, rumblings, and all kinds of things going on in the physical environment. And somewhere along the line, they said, there's something here other than us. We're not the only entities in existence. We're not the only ones around. And as a result of that, there were cosmologies and theologies and psychologies and sociologies of separation that developed. This idea that I'm over here and that is over there. It runs the whole gamut of our theological tenets and constructions, that there is separation in our existence. We're separate from the environment, that thunder and that lightning up there, and then many of our early societies attached some kind of greater power or large entity that was up there while we were down here. And we developed rituals because somehow in our minds we felt that there needed to be something to appease this other entity, to satisfy it, so that we could get what we want from it. And if we don't do that, we're going to be in trouble. If you look at the fundamental construction of most of our theologies, they are built around the notion that that which is greater than us is also separate from us. It is up there or over here, and we're down here or over there. And somehow we did something at some point that got us thrown down here. And we're busy trying to work our way back. And if we behave a certain way and do certain things, we will go back in the good graces and favor of that other, and once again be in paradise. That is the dyad that undergirds most of our religions. That we have done something wrong and we've got to make it right. There's a need for penitence, repentance. We need to change our ways so that the outcomes for us in this, what many of us call afterlife, will be better. And we've embraced that. We don't embrace the notion that germs cannot be transported to other human beings in the field of medicine anymore, because we were willing to expand our knowledge base and our consciousness around it. God forbid that we should return to the day when physicians would saw a man's leg or arm off and then take the same bloody saw and go to the next person, because we didn't know these microorganisms like germs and things actually existed. But we were willing, and when people would tell us that, we would say, oh, that's crazy. That's a crazy idea. When Copernicus came along and said the earth is not the center of the universe, they said, you guys, you're nuts. You and Galileo are nuts. You're apostates. And it was the organized church in Western civilization that placed Galileo under house arrest for the balance of his life, because he said the earth is not the center of the universe. It's not even the center of our solar system. Our solar system is heliocentric. It's not geocentric. And there were people who said, oh, no, 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 that's not, that is antithetical to what we teach. Earth is the center, and everything else is revolving around it. And if you walked into a science classroom and said that today, even the children would look at you as if you were from some lunar fringe of the universe, some outside fringe of the universe, because even our kids know better than that today. But do you know, there are people who still insist that the earth is the center and that the earth is flat. And we can't force people to expand. We can present and then let them make their choices. But these primitive first assumptions are integrated into our theology, our ideological frameworks, into our ideas about each other, and in a cause and effect universe, they're integrated into the thought that the cause is separate from the effect, certainly not connected. The cause is over here, and we're over there. And some of us choose to call that cause God. Some of us say the first cause. Some of us say the stem cell of existence. But even science has come along now and said to us, everything and everybody in the universe is connected. Einstein put it this way. He said, everything is energy. Everything is matter, and that's that. And it's all intertwined and interconnected. And those of us who are familiar with the fundamental ideas behind energy and matter understand that the law of the conservation of energy and the conservation of matter are the same, that they're neither created nor destroyed, but they can take on different forms. The interconnectivity, the symbiotic relationship we have with nature, the interdependence, which is one of your 7 principles, that we give carbon dioxide to trees and they give oxygen to us, plants. It's symbiotic. It's relational. But we still hold on to a lot of these ideas that we're separate. And in the Conversations with God community, we say we are individuated, but not separated. There's a difference between being an individuation and being separated. And what do I mean by that? Think about your hands and feet. If you put your hand in front of you, there are 5 fingers on that hand. Well, some people say 4 fingers and a thumb. There's a semantics thing again. I say 5 fingers, or to satisfy those who may disagree, I'll say 4 fingers and a thumb. The point is, they are individuated, but they're not what? They're not separate. They're all connected to one what? Hand and arm and the rest of the body. Look at your toes, which is something that I think most men dread to do at times. Because when I look at my feet, I think of Fred Flintstones and how they used to drive those cars with their feet. And I said, boy, you got Flintstone feet. You don't need to even be looking at them. But those toes are connected, although individuated. They're connected. Take a trip to the ocean and just stand there for a moment and look at the waves. The waves rise and recede. no two waves is exactly the same, but they're all connected to that one sea or ocean. They're individuated, but not separated. Why am I mentioning this? I'm saying it because there are signs and symbols all around us that say, as the Latins would say, e pluribus unum, out of many one. You look at a tree and the branches on that one tree, which underground are connected, we've discovered, to other tree forms and other plant forms in a network that's not seen. Individuated but not separated. This is one of the fundamental, we believe, principles that undergirds all of life, that individuation does not mean separation. And out of that tradition rises Jesus, who was Jewish, by the way. Jesus was not a Christian. He was actually Jewish. And he said, as you do it unto the least of these, you do it unto me. Which was his way of saying, we're all connected. And as we say in modern day language, whatever goes around also comes around. We reap what we sow. There are immutable laws in our universe that take effect. That somehow in this circular nature of our existence, the things we put out come back, and they come back multiplied. Because there's interconnectivity, and Dr. King put it this way: we're all tied together in a single garment of destiny, bound by an inescapable network of mutuality. And what affects one directly affects all indirectly. Strangely enough, I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be, and you cannot be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be, because this is the structure of our universe. A tying together of individuated parts. The end of World War I rather. That war ended, and the nations who were involved in that war met in Paris and signed a treaty. But they excluded the attendance of the one nation that they would at some point say was responsible for the atrocities of that war. They excluded Germany. What goes around comes around. And because they were excluded, and because they took territory from Germany, and because many of the soldiers who fought in that war on the German side said, we could have won that war. They stopped it before it should have been stopped. And who's to blame? Those other people. It's those socialist Jews that are responsible for this travesty that occurred. And along comes Adolf, who was initially sent as a spy to look at the socialists. But he started listening to them, and he said, I agree with that. Yeah. It's the Jews who stabbed us in the back. And as Germany's economy plunged and there was 30% unemployment, he formulated an idea, tried an unsuccessful coup, wrote a book called Mein Kampf, laid out his plans for the future, and said, the Jewish people think that they're going to see the destruction of Germany, but what they're going to see is the destruction of the Jewish people. And I'm using this as an example because we've not just engaged in this madness that took place in Germany in the 30s and 40s against Jewish people, but we've engaged in this madness against Arab people and against black people and against Native Americans. We've engaged in this madness against each other. The genocide in South Africa, King Leopold, all of these things have impacted us all. And they've come from this notion that somehow you are separate, you are inferior, you're not as good, you're responsible, and we refuse to own up to the fact that we are interconnected and interrelational, and that there are immutable laws, and that there are outcomes and consequences that impact all of us, and none of us can isolate ourselves from it because we're connected to it. There were isolationists in this country when Hitler started building his war machine who said, we're not going to get involved with that. That's Europe's problem. And the Japanese said, we're going to make it your problem. And when they attacked Pearl Harbor, we realized, oh, so we're a part of the world as well. And John Donne was right. No man is an island entire of itself, but each man and woman is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. And then he went on to say, so therefore never sin for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee, because you're involved in mankind. Individuated but not separated. And so Hitler, along with others who supported him, and a collective consciousness that built around him, very much akin to, in my opinion, what we're seeing even in our country today. Hitler may have been the mouthpiece, but he was not the engine. There were millions of people in that country who supported his ideas. And when you have millions of people telling you this is the right course, unfortunately, some will ride that wave. I know I'm right. There are 60 million people who agree with me. I'm right. And so we continue to engage in this repetitive madness, and Einstein comes along and says, you cannot solve a problem by using the same energy that created it. There are signs all around you that tell you you are not separate. Although you're individuated, you're not separated, and you impact each other. Now, in New Age philosophy, they come along and say you create your own reality. From an individual sense, that is true. But we're not responsible for all of the things we encounter based on just our perception and our individual decisions about what is real. There are other people in this world, and there's collective energy in this world that plays a part in that as well. So no, you're not responsible for everything that's happening in the world. We are responsible for the way we internalize it, the way we look at it. And so Gandhi comes along and says, be the change you seek in the world. Don't wait. You be the change you seek. Because we do impact each other. And with the technological advancements we have today, most of us remember George Floyd and those pictures on the internet and on social media. Well, the George Floyd situation had traveled around the world in less than, I think, 15 minutes. Everybody on earth knew it. So one incident and one person can impact thousands and eventually millions of people. It's not like many years ago, like you remember the experiments we used to do in elementary school where they would take a can, 2 cans, and tie them to a rope so that you could understand how sound travels. Well, we don't have to take 10 cans and rope anymore. We can just push a button and be all over the world. That is amazing. But let us use these tools to make of our world a better world. Let us use these tools to help us understand that we are interconnected and interdependent, and even though we're individuated and we have our own egos and our own individual perspectives, we are connected to and we impact each other. And so because we do not understand this, we're a fledgling species. We're seedlings. And our behaviors are indicative of that. One of the fundamental things that I believe other sentient beings in this universe, and I do believe there are other sentient beings besides us. In a universe that's billions of years old with trillions of galaxies, we have the gall to suggest, well, you know, we're the only ones. We're it. There ain't nobody else. And we're receiving signals from places we can't even identify because we're not alone. And the sad thing is, on this little planet, we're having trouble getting it together. And we keep doing the same things over and over again and expecting different outcomes. And I think someone came along and said that's a signature definition of insanity, to keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. We think the solution to killing is to kill. Kill them all. And Dr. King comes along and says, you can kill a murderer, but you can't kill murder. We are connected. We are interdependent. And that cycle, that circle continues. I'll hasten. Technology is wonderful. Scientific insight and inquiry is wonderful. But they're all moving feasts. And it behooves us to at least be open. And one of the things that Neil says is that, can we entertain the thought that perhaps there's something about our lives, about life, about ourselves, about the higher power that we don't understand, and that the understanding of that would change everything? Is it possible that we can have a new good news, a new gospel that says, we are one, we are interconnected, we are individuated, we can have our own perspectives and our own ideas and our own theologies, but we must come to see that it is true. The circle completes itself. We are all a part of that circle, and it will come around and impact us. And because science says we don't die, although the physical form changes, there's something beyond this place that's larger than this place. We won't even get into the stories of people who've had near-death experiences, we call them near-death, or that come back and tell us, oh, there's more to it than this. It's not all. It's not what we think. But if you are of the opinion that we're simply physical entities, and it's interesting how human beings fall into certain categories. There's the group that says we're just our bodies, this is all there is to it. And then there's a group that says our bodies really don't matter, we're spiritual. And then there's a group somewhere caught in the middle. And I think that perhaps a lot of people think Unitarians are that group that's caught in the middle. You guys really don't know what to believe. You just kind of all over the place. And it is the liberating idea of that that helps us come to a place where we can accept each other in spite of our differences. And am I sugarcoating the world? No, I am not sugarcoating the world. There is evil in our world, and there are people who will harm us. And there are people we will harm. And given each individual's model of the world, nothing he or she does is incorrect or wrong. From the way they see it, I'm doing the right thing. So what do we need? We need to change our model of the world. We need a paradigm shift from separatism to oneness, to the idea that you and I are connected, like everything around us tells us. Maybe the golden rule is not such a bad thing after all. As you would, one would do unto you, do you even so to them? Would you want that to be done to you? It's simple. A Jewish itinerant preacher came along and said, and he was taught to say it, as you would that others should do unto you, do ye even so to them. It's simple. Don't do stuff to people you don't want done to you. It's going to come back around. Can you imagine the hundreds of thousands and millions of young people who are going to be at each other's throats because the adults can't get it together and they keep killing each other? So you kill my brother and I'm going to kill your brother. You blow up my city and I'm going to blow up your city. And we have the gall to suggest this is civilized behavior. And we say, well, we're civilized because we have laws that govern us and people won't follow these laws. Newsflash. If we were civilized, we wouldn't need so many laws and rules and regulations to contain us. A mature civilization does not need all these laws and things, because a mature civilization would understand this stuff comes back around. What I put out is going to broadcast back to me, and what you put out is coming back to you. We are connected, although individuated, and there is no way around it. Life is circular. Comes back. Finally, I was driving about 2 weeks ago near a Family Dollar store. And I saw a man who was sitting in his wheelchair. He looked at me, and I looked back at him, and I started to drive on. But something in his eyes told me he needed help. So I walked over to him with a $5 bill. And he said to me, "Thank you, but I really just needed somebody to help push me up the hill, because I tried doing it before myself and I fell." I said, "Well, keep the $5. And I pushed him up the hill. And he said, "Thank you, you're wonderful. God bless you forever." And I thanked him for the opportunity for me to tell life. I choose to make a difference where I can and when I can. Gandhi's words, be the change you seek in the world. None of us has the power to change the world, but we can each make a difference in the lives of those we touch by the way we touch them. And one by one, make a difference in an individual's life, in a family's life, in a neighborhood, and continue to do that. There are voices among us who have large audiences that they can speak to. I've been privileged to stand and talk in front of you. But every day we're given the opportunity to operate under the principle that even though we are individuated, we are not separated. We are interconnected and interdependent, and I am as much a part of you as you are of me, and there's a whole string of theology behind that I don't have time to go into today, but we can touch the life we touch in the way that we would want to be touched. We're not asking that we go out and save a boatload of people, but just maybe pull one in and refuse to be a part of the theology and cosmology of separation, and refuse to think in terms of that being the other, and I'm over here and you're over there, and in a cause and effect universe, in spite of what you decide to call the first cause, you may call it Allah or Yahweh or God or Jesus or Omar or Tiffany or Shirley or John or Primal Soup or whatever. The first cause of our existence in a cause and effect universe is that which is, whatever we decide to call it. And we're all connected to each other because of it. Individuated, but not separated. And this loudmouth Baptist preacher was just getting started. God bless you.